Coaches, welcome back to the channel, and I'm excited to welcome Coach Dan Casey from St. David's High School here in North Carolina. He's going to talk a little bit about mesh. It's a great video. I can't wait for you to see it.
Give you a look at something that showed up in the national championship game, a little variation of how to run mesh, especially versus teams that have a trips check out of quarters where they'll man up that outside receiver and try and take him out of the game. One of the things that you saw both Oklahoma and Clemson do against Alabama this year is they cut the splits of their trip side receivers and put the outside receiver on the ball, and that trips check kind of naturally paired up the X receiver and the corner in a man-to-man situation, and these guys are almost playing a version of two out here, where the Sam was the flat player, we had the hook or wall player here, and the half-field player here as a strong safety. But what Oklahoma did, and then Clemson followed suit, was cut down the splits of their trip side receivers and also cut down the split of their backside Z receiver. And what they ended up doing was running mesh with the outside receiver on either side. The Y came and ran a dig route in front of that strong safety, and the F kind of ran a divide route to capture that backside free safety, and then the tailback on the boundary side ran a wheel. And so what you saw is the mesh point actually widened out from center guard area to outside the tackle box, and since this corner was tracking with the outside receiver in his mesh route, it caused a lot of congestion here and ended up that the Z came wide open several times. So both Oklahoma ran it, Clemson ran it as well against Alabama because they knew that they would get man-to-man out here on the first receiver in their trip set. And when you know they got it, the mesh from the outside, the condensed formation really gave people some problems.
There are a few things that you'll notice about this play. The first is that you'll see obviously the cut split, the cut trips, and the number one receiver running the under. The second is that you'll see that mesh point is actually hitting outside the tackle box, which is a little wider than normal. You're also going to notice the down and distance. I think for Oklahoma, it was 4th and 6 maybe. For Clemson, it was 3rd and 5. So this is definitely a gotta-have-it kind of play. And you're also expecting, maybe some man coverage in those situations, and this play definitely works well against man, as well as any sort of trips check that you'll see.
And the difference between cutting your trips formation, a little bit of a cut split, and maybe running a bunch is you're going to get a different check from the defense. In a bunch formation, you might get a box check where you're still going to have an outside presence here that's going to swallow up that under route from the boundary. But if you run condensed trips, it really plays with the rules for their trips check, and also this backside tailback really captures a lot of vision from that free safety, and even that corner a little bit. They're not going to play as aggressive to some of this stuff. So I think this cut split formation with the divide route, the dig in behind, and the mesh from these guys is a really good little setup for you. And out of this trips cut split alignment, you can basically run the exact same thing and just trade responsibilities between your Z receiver and your tailback, which actually, one of the reasons I like this is because you're able to introduce a little bit of play action into your mesh concept. So instead of the Z running the immediate under, he can run a fade ball, he can cut him in, he can run a corner route, you can even run a post and kind of take the top off the defense. And then you can play action to your tailback, and depending on the front, he can find a gap. Probably front side A is most likely going to be his aiming point. That X receiver's running the under, your Y's got the dig again, F can run divide or climb, and then he's going to actually run the mesh. So your running back is going to get involved running the mesh. And again, it's a very simple way to run the identical concept of that cut split mesh, but just changing the rules slightly. The Z is basically taking the boundary deep route, and then the tailback, your running back, is going to end up running the mesh. Again, it gives you a chance to take the snap from center, ride that play action fake, get into your drop, and then your running back and your X receiver are going to end up running that mesh route. And again, it just messes with the defense's rules a lot, especially if they're going to get into a trips check where they're manning up this outside receiver. Is going to end up creating a lot of open space out here. So if you, again, cut splits on the trip side, and then basically all you're doing is swapping out the Z for your tailback. Again, I think it's just a little creative wrinkle where you're not teaching a whole bunch of new concepts, a whole bunch of new routes. You're just getting to the exact same mesh look with some very minor tweaks that can really give the defense some problems.
This running back mesh route from Arizona State isn't exactly how I drew it up on the board, but it does give you an idea of how simple it is to get your running back out of the backfield and into a mesh concept. As long as he's able to find a seam, either front side A or back side A, he's able to get out of the backfield and get into a mesh concept, no problem.